There is just under a week to go until the start of the Premier League season and the new season of FPL, and people are starting to get to squads that they are finally ready with in their FPL teams. However, there are some players I'm really surprised to see in quite so many teams. So in today's video, we're going to go through 10 players that I don't think you should be picking that I really am seeing in people's real drafts. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, at 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And we are on the road to 200,000 subscribers by game week 1. It is a big ask, but do show your support on the channel. Make sure you've joined the league code. And there is a lot of data that we're going to use to pick apart some of these players. And it is all from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. And they are still offering a big discount as we get closer to the start of the season as well. So what we're going to do in this video, and I want to add a bit of a disclaimer at the beginning. This is not going to be a video where I've just got 10 players who are really obvious avoids that you're going to go through and maybe think, yeah, I'm not going to buy any of those players regardless. I want to have a discussion about 10 players who I'm seeing in quite a few drafts, which I don't think I'm going to own in my game week 1 team. It's not going to be a video where you're going to agree with every single player. It's not going to be, oh, I wouldn't pick this Chelsea winger because he's not going to start. I'm not going to pick Phil Foden because he's not ready for the start of the season and things like that. It is going to be players that I really am seeing. They are all over 10% owned. So you will disagree with some of them, and that is absolutely fine. But I wanted to go through 10 players that I'm seeing being spoken about and asked about that I don't currently have in my draft. We're actually going to start off with just a little bit of injury news for 3 players who are highly owned at the moment. First one is Dominic Solanke. He featured at the very beginning of pre-season for Spurs, but we haven't seen him since. It does sound like he is still expected to just be back for the start of the season, but at the moment, I don't think we know with any enough certainty that he is going to be back for you to be picking him in game week 1. We have a similar situation for Morgan Rogers, who did limp off after just a couple of minutes in at their friendly on Wednesday evening. Newcastle at home on the opening day. He is probably the most likely of all of the ones that we've got here, I would say, to be back. They do, of course, play more preseason friendlies over the weekend, so we will get more information. Of course, there's press conferences before the game week 1 deadline. He is such a good game week 1 pick, so it's really annoying that he's a bit of a doubt at the moment because I do want him in my team and he's not in my current draft, which will be out on Monday morning for you all. So another one to keep an eye on. And then the third one is a new one from Friday evening. Kelleher of Brentford was not in the squad at all. It was actually 4 million Valdemarson who started. Kelleher apparently was left out as a precaution as he picked up a slight knock in the build-up to that match. So it's, again, one that we need to keep an eye on over the next week or so. It does sound like it was just a bit of a precaution. He should be back in the squad by the game week 1 deadline. But if not, we might have another 4 million goalkeeper in Valdemarson who might just get 1 or 2 starts at the beginning of the season. Next up is some notes from the Chelsea game. So I was at the Chelsea game last night and I just want to talk through a couple of things that I saw. First thing is I'm being asked a lot about the centre-backs now that it looks like Levi Colwill is going to miss a fair amount of time. The obvious thing is, yes, it makes them slightly more nailed, but I don't think it's really clear who it's going to be. Hato, Tosin, Chalobah, all of these are starting to play minutes, and I don't think it's out of the question that we look to sign another centre-back, given that Colwill is likely to be out for quite an amount of time, and we're in the Champions League as well, so I wouldn't buy our centre-backs. Raya was playing really advanced at times that we saw at the end of last season. I do think at 6 million he's worth considering. Sanchez didn't start. It was Jorgensen. We play another preseason friendly on Sunday, which I do expect that we'll see Sanchez and maybe a more full-strength lineup. It was Delap that started over João Pedro. João Pedro definitely looked better when he came on. Of course, he got the goal. Palmer did look good. He was very creative. The goal threat wasn't quite as much, and I did see a little bit of the dropping deep into pockets that we saw at times last season that was really frustrating, but he was very involved in what we do. There was a lot of excitement about Esteval, about Gittins, about Neto, about the wingers, but we have too many for us to reliably buy one for the start of the season. So Palmer's still great. I'm a little bit less certain on João Pedro just because Delap started, and Cucurella and Sanchez are the best if you're going defensively. So diving in, we're going to start off at Manchester City, and we're going to start off in their defence, and that's Raya and Ait-Nouri. Again, we've got real certainty that good defenders with good defensive contributions are going to be reliable for the start of the season, particularly if there's a nice run of fixtures. I think the key thing for me at Manchester City, particularly with new signings, is just reliability of minutes. We know that they've got O'Reilly, who finished the end of season last year really, really well. They've got Gvardiol, who can play out there. Ait-Nouri is likely to be their long-term solution at left back, but I just don't know for certain that he's going to be that number 1 at the beginning of the season. If we see over the last couple of preseason games that that's going to be the case, then maybe you can go there. But 6 million feels like a real risk for someone that we don't know reliably enough. Now, the opening fixtures look good, but it does sound like they're going to be without Rodri for the first few games. And they did end the season okay without him, but generally they were weaker defensively whilst Rodri was not in the lineup, which again, just definitely impacts the amount of clean sheets that they are potentially going to keep this year. It also, because of the Rodri injury, might be enough to put me off Gvardiol a little bit more. I don't think that's as much of an issue because I do expect him to play every single game next season for Manchester City as he normally does. But I do think the clean sheet potential definitely drops, as we did see at times last year without Rodri. Next, we're going up front, and it is Beto of Everton. 5.5 million looks like a really nice price. And at points last year, people really like to own him. And the fixtures look all right. People look at Leeds on the opening day and think it's quite good. And actually, if you're looking at the 5.5 million price bracket, there aren't that many to pick from. So I can understand why he is in a fair amount of teams. But they have signed Barry, who looks like he is going to be the long-term prospect at Everton. I don't have that much high hopes for him either. The online data is okay, but he has regressed back to being a bit of a poor finisher. He's spending a lot of offsides as well. If you ask any Everton fans, I'm sure they will tell you that. We don't know how long he's going to keep his place. He's not playing 90 minutes every game because they're taking him off and bringing Barry on. He's not on penalties because of Iliman Ndiaye as well. So I think there's enough things that this could easily be an early transfer out. And if he doesn't get returns in the first couple of games, he is a player that could easily start to drop in price very, very quickly. So for me, he had a purple patch last year that he was really good in, but he's not a game week 1 pick. I'd just go up to 6 million for someone like a Fulkrog, someone like a Thiago at Brentford. Now it looks like that Wan-Bissaka is going to be leaving as well. Both really nice options at just 0.5 more. Next up is 2 FPL favourites now at Manchester United, and that is Cunha and Mbeumo. The real reason that I don't plan on picking these for game week 1 is just the uncertainty of exactly what we're going to get. We do have Sesko to add in, it looks like, to that Manchester United attack, which is likely to look great. But they do also have a lot of players like Bruno can play in that front three. You've got Ahmad, who might want a few minutes there as well. I don't think they are as good assets as they were at their previous clubs, so at Wolves and at Brentford. They both lost penalties. They both lost set pieces. They're both likely to be less talismanic. They're both likely to get less minutes than they did previously as well. And when you start to have a look at some of the fixtures, right? So Arsenal and Manchester City and Chelsea all in the opening 5. Fulham away, who are actually one of the best teams in the league for underlying goals conceded last year. Burnley at home is probably the only fixture that I look at in the first 6 and think that is really great. If you want a Manchester United player, I do not mind the Bruno Fernandes pick at all, just because we know what we're going to get from him, whether he plays in the 10, whether he plays centre mid. He's good for defensive contributions, set pieces and everything like that. I don't mind the Bruno Fernandes pick, but I need to see how the likes of Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo settle in for the start of the season. Next, we're going to Liverpool and we're looking at Frimpong. Now, this kind of goes for all the fullbacks you've got. You've got Bradley at 5, but then you've got Kirkes and you've got Robertson in there as well. I don't think we know certainly at the moment who is going to be their first choice at right back. Frimpong and Bradley could both take minutes and they've both got minutes during pre-season. Frimpong has had a lot of attacking returns already, but he's playing quite a lot at right wing. And Arne Slot actually said they did look at Frimpong, partly because when you consider something like the African Cup of Nations, he can play a lot far further forward in that right wing position if we need him to. And that's great for versatility, and it's great for Liverpool as a team that they have a player like Frimpong who can play several positions. But it isn't good enough for me to pick him in game week 1. Now, his underlying data from the Bundesliga is crazy good. 0.37 goals or assists per 90 last year. And the underlying data is there to match it. And he's playing for the second best defense in the league as well. So there was a lot to, when you look at the underlying data, look at the stats to say that Frimpong should be a great pick. And there might be times once he, embeds himself and gets first choice that he will be a great pick and he could be one for the future years of FPL. I'm just not sure that game week 1, with the uncertainty of who's going to start, that we should be owning him straight away. A player with an awful lot of uncertainty around his name is Alexander Isak, now at Newcastle. So he's currently at Newcastle, but he is heavily linked to a move to Liverpool. I think the game week 1 deadline is now way too close for him to move to Liverpool and be a good option for the start of the season. I don't see him, starting game week 1 or game week 2. He's hardly had any preseason as well because he's been told not to train with his Newcastle teammates because he's been trying to force this move. So if he goes to Liverpool between now and the deadline, or the rumours are still there, he is definitely not a pick. And even if he stays at Newcastle, they're one of the teams that I think I've seen have really struggled during pre-season. And he's hardly trained with his teammates. So we're only a week or so away. He's not going to have much time if he does stay at Newcastle. The opening fixtures are really difficult for Aston Villa, Liverpool. Then it gets a little bit better and then it gets harder again. So whether he stays or whether he goes, 10.5 million for the start of the season with the amount of uncertainty there is, he's just probably one of the biggest avoids in the game for me at the moment. Into defense is one of my heroes from the end of last season, and that is Konsa, and it pains me to put him in this video, but I look at some of the opening fixtures and I start to think I don't see that much clean sheet potential. We aren't certain if Emi Martinez is going to be available for the start of the season as well. Is Rodgers going to be there? What is that Aston Villa team exactly going to look like? The other big thing that I really impact Konsa is that defensive contribution per 90, 5.4. You might get some clean sheets from him, but when you look at other defenders at the same price who have so much better defensive contributions, probably slightly better opening fixtures, it's not that Konsa is a bad pick for the season. It's that I think there are better defenders for game week 1. Someone like a Richards, I really like. You've got someone maybe like a Van de Ven at that 4.5 million. You can go up to a 5 million as well. I really like Konsa, and I'm sure I'll own him at times this season. But as time has gone on, I'm not sure that game week 1 is that. And I think there are other options that I will likely go with. He is probably the one that I think, if you've got him, he's an absolutely fine 4.5 million defender. None of them are that exciting. But for me, he's probably not the one I'm going to go with, just partly because, I mean, the fixtures, but also that DEFCON number is just way too low for me. The only goalkeeper that we've got on this list is David Raya at Arsenal. To be honest, all 5.5 million goalkeepers. With the introduction of defensive contributions, it really does impact the amount of money you should be putting into a goalkeeper. When you invest 0.5 into a goalkeeper to go from a 4 to 4.5 up to a 5, up to a 5.5, you're getting the least amount of value for that money compared to when you're now adding it into a defender or into a midfielder, right? So if you move from a 5 million to a 5.5 million midfielder, or you're moving from a 4 million to a 4.5 million defender, that investment is doing so much, and there's such big upgrades between the price point now because of the defensive contribution. So instead of having Raya at 5.5 and a 4 million defender, having a 5 million goalkeeper and a 4.5 million defender as an example, just does such a big upgrade to what your bench can look like and what your squad can look like as well. Arsenal haven't started pre-season particularly well. United on the opening day, I probably do expect them to score. Liverpool, City, Newcastle, I mean, even Forest in the opening 6 as well. I don't like the opening run of fixtures for 5.5. There are much more reliable, well, not reliable, but there are just better goalkeepers for a cheaper price who I don't think are worse than Raya for that run of fixtures that you can then just invest the money elsewhere. Again, I think Arsenal will probably be the best defence in the league over the course of the season, maybe Liverpool. But over the first 6, I don't think when money is really tight at the beginning of the season that you should probably be owning any of the 5.5 million forwards, and David Raya is the most owned of those. Also, Arsenal is Bukayo Saka, 10.5 million. I think, again, this just comes down to the amount of money I'd like to spend on him and the other players in and around his price point, both in the midfield and forward line as well. So someone like a Palmer, coming down to Bruno Fernandes, coming down to a Vert, going up to an Ollie Watkins or something like that up front, that I find it really difficult to build any squad that Bukayo Saka gets anywhere near it when you've got a lot of other players who are likely to perform well at the start of the season at a similar or if not a cheaper price. Also, when you've got someone like Gyökeres coming in, we do expect Saka to lose some penalties. Declan Rice was taking a lot of free kicks at the end of last year, which might take some away from Bukayo Saka, because if you look at his underlying data, a lot of the returns he got were from assists per 90, and he's been great for that, but a lot of that comes from set pieces, and if Declan Rice starts taking a few more corners, it does start to impact him a little bit. The opening fixtures are also just quite tough. They're a real wait and see for me, Arsenal. Let's see how the likes of Gyökeres start to embed in. Let's see if they can get back to the way that they have been over the past couple of years. But the opening fixtures, I'm not sure that 10.5 million for Saka is really what I want to pay when you've got prices, as I said, like Bruno, Wirtz, Palmer, Watkins, that I would just much rather own. Then we're going to Brentford, and a player who's unlikely to be at Brentford for very much longer is Wan-Bissaka. Just a little bit like Alexander Isak, it's just all based on uncertainty. He's only just about started returning to training. He is heavily linked with a move away. Newcastle are definitely having a look at him if Alexander Isak is going to leave. If we get to game week 1 and Wissa is still at Brentford and there's uncertainty, we just can't be guaranteeing that he's in the squad. He hasn't hardly trained with the rest of that Brentford team. He's just about returned over the past couple of days. There's so much risk that he could go elsewhere. There are other options at 7.5 who are playing for teams that look much more settled. Brentford have lost an awful lot of players, right? They lost Mbeumo, they lost Norgard to Arsenal, they've lost their manager, they've lost Flecken. It's a whole host of issues looking like at Brentford at the moment. They look all right in pre-season, not quite as bad as maybe as I thought they do, but 7.5 million for him. He doesn't have the same level of service. He might not be starting game week 1 if he stays, and he might not be there. And if he does move, then he's definitely not going to be ready for game week 1, I don't think, at a new club. And finally is one of the most highly owned defenders in the entire game, and that is Wan-Bissaka at West Ham. The reason for this, that I don't like him as a pick for the start of the season, is twofold. First of all, if you're going at West Ham, I think their left wing back Diouf is a better pick. I think the attacking potential looks so much better for him than Wan-Bissaka does. The next thing is the defensive contributions for Wan-Bissaka seems like this myth that people think is really good. He averages 7.5 defensive contributions per 90, which just isn't good enough at all. You're not going to be hitting that 10 DEFCON threshold nearly enough. And he might also be playing as a right-sided centre-back in a back three now that they've gone with Kyle Walker-Peters, who could play at wing-back. The opening fixture is good against Sunderland, although away against a newly promoted team in the opening weekend is not something I love. Those newly promoted teams will want to fight. They've got a lot to prove in their opening day, and they're at home in front of their fans. And then after that, the fixtures for clean sheets, I actually don't like. Chelsea, Spurs, Palace, Forest in the next 4. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham kept no clean sheets of their opening 5 and Wan-Bissaka started to drop in price. I don't think he's a bad pick over the course of the season, but I don't think for game week 1, he is the one that I would start to have a look with. So that is 10 players to avoid. We've done and now officially covered everything I want to before we start to have a look at some drafts. Tomorrow and throughout the rest of the preseason, we're going to start to look at different ways to build your teams, different structures, a bit of chip strategy, and all that good stuff as well. So if you're excited for that between now and game week 1, please do subscribe to the channel as we chase 200k by game week 1. Any questions about these players? Who do you disagree with? Let me know, because this was never going to be a list of players of, oh, it's really obvious that I think you should just avoid all these players. There might be a couple of those in there, but there are also some players which I think some of you might have in your teams as well. So let me know all that in the comments. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.